You are listening to A Scary State, and this week we're covering Oklahoma. So, Kenzie,
Yes, Lauren.
let's get scary.
Oklahoma with the winds come
Sweeping down the plain. See, you knew that.
Yeah.
Other people did not know that.
Who didn't know that?
Nora!
Oh, that's right.
Wonderful Nora did not know what that was.
I thought that already happened. And I remember when I was like typing this, I was like, I have to sing that song. I was like, they must have done this. Someone must have done this the first time they got to Oklahoma.
I did it, and she looked at me, and I was like, the song, Nora. She goes, what song? And then it took a really long time to figure out what song.
Oklahoma.
Do I sound super nasally?
No.
Oh, good. If I do, anyone, I apologize.
Sound a smidge nasally.
I've been sick since Monday.
Lauren and I were having a very heated conversation, so my voice is a little raspy today.
So we got the stuffy voice, we got the raspy voice.
My sexy podcast voice.
Oh.
Raspiness. I don't know.
All right, so do we just want to jump right on into Oklahoma?
Yeah, I was trying to think if there was anything spooky. You should definitely watch the Murdoch stuff on Netflix.
Oh, yes.
Bro.
I've been hearing so much about it. We had a long conversation at work about it. Oh my gosh, on last Friday, I was at work and I was talking to two of my coworkers about axe throwing, like the axe throwing thing, which somehow transitioned into murders.
Oh,
and then
one does.
Yes. And then we talked about serial killers, and we spent like a whole hour just talking about this, and it was amazing. And one of my coworkers was like, this is what Fridays in the office are for. And I was like, you know what? This has been incredible.
Yeah, it's fucking wild.
Yeah.
And there's one video I recently just saw where this guy, it's on TikTok, but I saw it on Twitter. And he was saying how like he saw the documentary and like all this. And he's like, we met them. And I think he's from England, but they met the son and his girlfriend who's in the documentary in the Bahamas. And he like plays like a video of him.
Ew.
I was like, what the fuck? I don't know. It's just like weird.
That is weird.
You know, it's what I found so interesting about it is not like the story, because all of the things that happened are awful. What was very interesting to me, I was like, this is the first current documentary I've watched, because all this shit happened from like 2015
to like when we were alive and aware.
Right. And I'm like, there's Snapchat videos,
Ew.
there's Instagram posts. Like, it's weird.
That's so weird.
How much more shit they have.
Right.
Because of how we document freaking everything now. That to me was like very Twilight Zone-y, because all the other ones are like in the 70s and 80s and like when you recycle the same couple of images, you got to use reenactments.
Right.
Like,
because it was so long ago.
Right. And I'm just like, they showed videos of the Snapchat filter with the dog.
Oh.
And how, you remember how you used to do it? Yeah. They showed like pictures of them like taking, and I was like, this is so
current.
Crazy.
Right.
It literally happened like a few years ago.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll have to look more into it, because I don't know as much as I feel I should know.
Watch the documentary on Netflix. I already watched it, so it'll already be on your thing, because I was here when I watched it. When I was watching Raw the other weekend, I was like, this looks interesting. And then I was like, oh, you have to do homework. Pause that. Like,
yes.
Because this I want to pay attention to.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I'll definitely look into that.
It's harder to do homework and watch streaming television.
Yeah.
Because when I was a kid, I justified it by, I'll do it in the commercials.
Right. I'll spend the commercials and then I'll focus on the show. And then I could go back to the commercials. Yeah.
Well, there's no fucking commercials. No. And I'm like, shit, I have to pause this because I have to do this and I want to pay attention to that.
Right. Joe and I just finished the first half of You. Second half comes out today. It's so freaking good.
He's a bit much.
He is a bit much.
He's a bit much.
Have you watched it?
I watched a few episodes of the first season.
Oh, I just really like it because it gets all into like, the whole show is pretty much him talking.
Yeah, I know.
In his brain.
Yeah.
It's just so good.
I think I watched it because I really like the actor.
Penn Badgley? Is that his name? Badgley.
Whatever. Yeah. He's really cute. So that's why I started it. And then I was like, this is one of those shows that I would watch it if someone was going to make me watch it.
Okay.
But I will not go out of my way to watch it myself.
I'll make you watch it. It's good. It's good. I think you'd really like it.
Well, yeah, like my friend Ben came over and he had me watch Scream Queens. Like,
oh, yeah.
But he was like, I think he was like hungover and he slept the whole time. And I watched the entire first season.
Yeah.
But he was like, have you watched the second one? And I'm like, nope.
Nope, because you were here.
You haven't been over to make me watch it.
I understand that. I get that. And for everyone who's following my music life, my two favorite bands, I literally think it was last episode, I was talking about how badly I wanted to see Ice Nine Kills.
Truly, the stars have actually aligned.
They actually have. My two favorite bands are Falling in Reverse and Ice Nine Kills. Literally Tuesday afternoon, they announced they were touring together. So Tuesday afternoon, I bought my ticket to go see them.
In their like swimwear.
Oh, it's just incredible.
It is incredible. I'm like stalking Blue Ridge. Like, see, I got really excited when they announced Of Mice and Men.
Yes.
I'm excited about that one. I still officially want to see that they announced Sleeping with Sirens. Like, I want to see that officially announced.
But that music video, that picture that they showed.
I know.
Literally from King for a Day music video.
I know.
I even had to, like, before I told you, because you were like, I don't know who that is. I was like, am I like thinking things? Like, how does she not know who this is? So I went to the music video and I like scrolled through and I was like, that's the image. Yes, Mackenzie.
You were like, you know who they are. I'm like, I'm sure I do.
Every guy from that time looks the same with the long swoopy hair.
And I'm like, I never really got a good look at them.
Oh yeah, I did. I watched that music video a lot.
Yeah, no, I just listened to the music. I didn't watch the music videos.
Oh yeah.
So
I was also at the age where I was like, you know, you have to watch the cute guys in the music videos.
Sure. But I did not start liking this until far later in life.
That is true.
So,
yes.
You know, like I said, I typically do get excited about things. It just sometimes
just takes a little bit longer.
It's a delayed reaction. I get there eventually.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
All right, so Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, where the wind comes sweeping down the range. Range?
Plains?
Plains.
Plains or range? Both sound good.
The range, where the deer and the antelope. That movie.
What movie?
Home on the Range with the fucking cows.
I have not seen it.
I watched it one time and there's this real freaky part where like the bad guy cow gets all like super weird, red-eyed, evil. I don't know. Freaked me the fuck out and I watched it again.
I bet now if you watch it, you'd be like, that looks so stupid.
Probably. So, Oklahoma. The town of Pitcher is one of the most toxic places in America. Yeah, because look how it's spelled. Contaminated water from abandoned mine shafts was never properly cleaned up and is now an environmental hazard area. And the air and water are now contained by lead.
Contaminated. Do that one over again.
The air and water are now contaminated by lead.
Fascinating.
One of these days when I can start editing, but like you're still doing the state facts, I'm going to keep that shit in there.
Oh, man.
Anyway, in 2013, a woman tried to sell her 2-year-old and 10-year-old, $4,000 total or $2,000 each. But soon she got desperate when no one wanted to buy her children that she reduced it to $1,000. She tried to do this on Facebook in order to get bail for her boyfriend who was in jail. Jesus. She was reported to Child Protective Services and was rightfully arrested.
Like, duh.
I'm telling you, before you have kids, spend a day in grades K through 6.
It'll be the birth control you need.
If you still have a love to have children and bring them into this world, then I say go for it. If there is any ounce of doubt, anytime any of my students have ever asked me, do you have kids? Why? I have you that I deal with all day. And you want me to go home to more? What?
But your kids will actually be well behaved.
I digress. Anyway, on January 22nd, 1997, Lottie Williams, a resident of Tulsa, was taking an early morning stroll with her friend at 3:30 a.m. They looked up in the sky and noticed fireballs streaking across the sky. They admired this sight for about 30 minutes until the piece fell out of the sky and hit Williams in the shoulder.
I would like to go back to the fact that they're having a morning stroll at 3:30 in the morning. That's
morning
weird.
stroll. Witching hour. She's the only known person to have been hit by space debris falling from the sky. The odds of it happening are 1 in a trillion, compared to getting struck by lightning, which is only 1 in 1.4 million.
At that point, you need to go buy a lottery ticket.
It's also like, that's too low of a ratio to get struck by lightning.
What do you mean?
Like, that seems like really possible.
Yeah. But like, I mean, they always say like 1 in a million means like it's never going to happen.
But there's a billion people on this planet.
Yeah.
If you...
Aren't there more than a billion?
There's 8.
Oh.
There was a video I saw once where it had 1 million grains of rice and 1 billion grains of rice. And they took out the same amount.
Mm-hmm.
And you could notice it with the 1 million, but you didn't notice the change in the pile.
It's like that thing, like 1 million seconds brings you to like 32 years. 1 billion seconds brings you to like 37,000 years.
I think 1 million seconds is like short. And 32 seconds is a billion.
Did I mix it up?
I don't know. Anyway, but yes, I know what you're saying. Yeah. Right. Which is why I'm already nervous in thunderstorms, like most dogs. And I can see why, because there's a 1 in 1.4 million chance. Like, eventually, statistically speaking,
no,
I'm going to get around to my 1.4 millionth time of being in a thunderstorm.
I don't think you're going to be in 1.4 million thunderstorms.
I don't know. With the way the world is right now.
Okay. Valid.
It was fucking 80 degrees in February.
Yeah.
Anywho, in 2014, a 16-year-old girl was skydiving when she had a She had a terrifying realization that was the stupidest idea she could have ever done, because her parachute malfunctioned and she plummeted 3,500 feet to the ground. But thankfully, she survived. She, of course, suffered multiple injuries, but overall was in good condition. People in OK, meaning Oklahoma, are the worst at eating fruit in the country, and the 44th worst in vegetable consumption.
Why are you reading like this?
I don't know.
You sound like one of those like TV people. Did you know?
Just trying to, spice it up. Oh, and it also ranks number 9th in the nation for meth labs. Congratulations. You made it into the top 10.
Oh, yeah.
The world's largest pop bottle?
Yeah, like pop, like soda. They call it pop down there.
Why'd you say we don't?
Yeah, but they do. And we're in Oklahoma, so I'm not going to say it how we say it.
Not literally in Oklahoma. Anyway, the world's largest soda bottle is located in Arcadia. And at night, the 66-foot-tall structure is lit up by neon lights. That's cool. I would like to go see that.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
The Golden Driller is the 6th tallest statue in the U.S. and is located in Tulsa. It is 75 feet tall and honors the oil workers.
Oh.
The flag of Oklahoma is honorary of over 60 Native Americans and their ancestors' groups. Shopping carts were invented by Sylvan Goldman, who was from Oklahoma. Voicemail services were invented by Gordon Matthews, an Oklahoman.
Yeah.
Oh.
An Oklahoman.
Okay. Also an Oklahoman. Oklahoma also received the first tornado warning in the U.S. on March 25th, 1948. God, it took them that long to come up with that.
Right.
So you're just like, let's hope it doesn't show up today.
Right. Oh, there's that thing again.
Oh, fuck. There it is. God damn. This is why I could never live in the Midwest.
No.
Gives me anxiety when I think about the fact that people live there.
I know.
I'm already nervous with thunderstorms, but I'm truly terrified of tornadoes.
When we were down in Arkansas, we were out at the rehearsal dinner and it started to thunder really, really bad thunderstorm. And then we all got the warning, oh, there's a tornado watch or whatever. And we're like, warning, whatever, one of those scary things for a tornado. And I was like, oh my God.
And that's possible there.
Yes, that's what I was scared about. When we have that here, it's kind of it's not going to happen. But there I was like, oh my God.
Do you remember when we were in 8th grade?
Uh-huh.
And there was that.
Literally right when you said you remember, I remember being under the desk.
What class were you in?
Spanish.
I was in PE.
And
I had to pee. And we were in the position, and you will never believe what our friend pulled out to read while we were waiting for this to pass.
A Bible?
No, a freaking magazine. She's flipping through. It's like, like it's 17 magazine.
Oh.
And then I forget what his name was, but he was so funny. I don't think he ended up going to high school with us.
I don't know.
But he was on the other side of me, and she's flipping through the pages, and he goes, "Ooh, Jessica Alba," and like takes the magazine, and I'm like, okay, you can't be afraid in front of these other people. You are in 8th grade. They're going to make fun of you if you show fear. And fucking Mr. walks over to the goddamn gym door and opens it.
To look outside. I was right by a hallway, and at the end of the hallway was the door to outside. Oh my God, it was so freaking loud.
I really didn't hear all that much.
We heard a lot.
But I was like, what? I was freaking out.
And I mean, the locker rooms would have been probably a really safe place for you to go if you had gone to the bathroom. That would have been a safe hiding spot.
Yeah. I forget what wasn't. Yeah, I know. I think I said something. I think someone yelled at us for talking, maybe.
We always get in trouble for talking.
And I was like, well, I have to go to the bathroom. They didn't let me go to the bathroom.
I wouldn't see why they would.
Yeah. But yeah, that was fun. So.
Our only tornado experience.
Okay, yeah, sorry. A couple more facts.
You're sitting there like, yeah, what are we talking about next?
Forgot I wasn't done. Anyway, there's an average of 62 tornadoes that occur here annually. And between 1950 and 2017, it had been hit with 3,824 tornadoes. I almost said tomatoes.
I bet they would have rather been hit by tomatoes.
Yes, because that's what it looked like.
It does.
In Ponca City, a tornado hit and picked up a house that had a husband and a wife in it. And then it set the house back down in one piece, and they walked away just with a weird experience.
Isn't that wild?
That is very wild. I would be traumatized. Like, go live underground.
Right.
That's the other thing. I'm screwed if we have to go live underground because that freaks me out just as much as it does to live above ground.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to live underground.
So, Reba McEntire was born in McAllister, and Brad Pitt and Garth Brooks are also from Oklahoma.
So that's Oklahoma.
So, what you talking about, Willis?
Okay, so for you today, I have a case where we will be traveling between a few different states, but Murderpedia has her listed under Oklahoma.
Okay.
Oklahoma has claimed her.
Okay.
So that is what we're talking about.
Okay.
And this is going to be a long one.
Okay.
All right.
Is it solved?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Known as the Giggling Granny, the Lonely Hearts Killer, the Jolly Black Widow, and Lady Bluebeard, you may be surprised to learn that her only goal was searching for the real romance of life. Today, I bring you the story of Nannie Doss, the woman with far too many nicknames. Your face, yes. Nancy Hazel was born on November 4th, 1905, to parents Louisa Lou and James F. Hazel in Blue Mountain, Alabama. Yeah, I know we're in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Nancy was one of 5 with 1 brother and 3 sisters. There are reports that maybe Nannie had been born illegitimately based on census reports that didn't make sense to me, but apparently she was born illegitimately. But early life...
They said so.
Right, exactly. They explained it, and I was like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. But early life wasn't easy for her. We have all the ingredients for a serial killer in the making.
Oh.
Her father was a controlling and abusive father and husband. So controlling that none of the children were allowed to attend school. They were all forced to work on the family farm.
The fuck?
At only 5, Nannie was already cutting wood, plowing the fields, and clearing the land.
Damn. My dad had to bribe us to help him rake the leaves.
Yes. There were many times when my family would be outside doing yard work and I would be sitting on the couch watching TV.
I'm like, that really sucks for you, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. At the age of 7, her family was going to visit relatives in southern Alabama. This was so exciting for Nannie and her siblings. They never really got to leave the house, so a vacation was just... Woo, super exciting. Well, at some point during the journey, the train stopped abruptly, causing Nancy, who went by the nickname Nannie, to hit her head hard on a metal bar on the back of the seat in front of her. And it's like a super long time ago. Of course, there's no safety precautions.
Right.
Well, this did some damage.
Oh, no.
From that point on, Nannie started to experience severe headaches, blackouts, and depression. But even with this head injury and lack of formal education, Nannie did learn to read at a very basic level and became fascinated with her mother's romance magazines, specifically the Lonely Hearts column. She would often find herself dreaming about her own romantic future, which felt so far from her, almost unachievable. Her father, being ever so controlling, forbid Nannie and her other siblings from wearing makeup of any kind and attractive clothes. Silk stockings were sinful, fixed hair was hellbent. You get the idea.
Yeah.
He believed that prohibiting this would, in part, prevent his daughters from getting molested by men. Just all around ew. But apparently these rules didn't help, and Nannie and her siblings did end up being molested on several occasions, though I only found that reported in one place, so hopefully it wasn't real. They weren't allowed to go to any social events and especially weren't allowed to attend any dances. Nannie recalled times when she and her sisters would hear far-off music coming from some party that they weren't allowed to attend. So Nannie eventually got a job at a linen factory and worked there for a bit when she was just 16. This is where she met a man named Charlie Braggs, and in some sources he is George Fraser, but we're going to say he's Charlie Braggs.
Okay.
Charlie was a coworker who also worked at this linen factory. He was tall, handsome, and had a head of curly hair. They dated for only 4 months before Braggs asked Nannie's father's permission, and the two got married.
$10 says it doesn't work out.
Their relationship started off stormy and remained that way, so good job.
Thank you.
And to add to that mix, Charlie Braggs was an only child and was raised by his single mother.
You just really can't know people after 4 months.
So when he and Nannie got married, his mother insisted that she continue to live with him and now with Nannie. About this, right.
No.
Right.
No.
Mom always jokes. She's like, you and Joe should buy a duplex and I'll live on one side and you guys live on the other side. And I was like, I would love that. And she was like, Joe probably wouldn't. I said, no, he probably wouldn't, but I would love that.
My mom and I say the same thing. And I'm like, there's no fucking way in hell I'm going to ever find someone that'd be on board with that.
Right. But you're technically in two different houses.
Right. And I'm
the doors are just right next to each other.
I'm like, I think I would worry that I'm like that person you see in the movies who like doesn't realize their mother's overbearing. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't want her over? I don't understand.
Yeah.
What do you mean? It's a problem. She's here all the time. I don't understand.
What do you mean you don't like the fact that she's moved into our guest room?
Right.
So, once about this whole marriage, Nannie once said, quote, I married as my father wished in 1921 to a boy I only knowed about 4 or 5 months. That's why I said, quote, about 4 or 5 months who had no family, only a mother who was unwed and who had taken over my life completely when we were married. She never seen anything wrong with what she done, but she would take spells. She would not let my own mother stay all night. So just from that, it's pretty easy to imagine how life was for the newlyweds. But it wasn't just them. It was them and Bragg's mother who ended up taking up most of her son's attention and time, limiting what Nannie was really even able to do. If the couples planned to go out for a nice dinner, mother-in-law would complain of some ailment and would do so until her son decided he needed to stay home to take care of her rather than going out to dinner with his wife.
I just watched an episode of Criminal Minds that's like eerily
well, we'll keep going and we'll see if this is the case that
more so like
it.
This guy being like attached to his mother and doing whatever she says, not the girl, like the main character. Like
in 1923, the couple did welcome their first daughter into the world and had 3 more by 1927. So 23 to 27, 4 kids.
Damn.
So Nannie's like 18 when she has her first daughter. She's she's now about 21, 22, has 4 daughters and a mother-in-law who just won't leave. So understandably, she's stressed and she eventually turned to drinking. And her once casual smoking habit soon became a very heavy addiction.
Girl, I hear you.
So these habits did nothing for the marriage, as the 2 unhappy parents constantly would accuse the other of infidelity. Nannie was known to be an insatiable lover and had a hard time with the word fidelity. She was also described as being high-tempered and mean. Charlie, on the other hand, would disappear for days on end. Each time he disappeared, Nannie would go out as well, both out on the town and most likely in someone else's bed.
That's wild.
Oh, just you wait. But tragedy struck in 1927 when Charlie and Nannie lost 2 of their daughters to suspected food poisoning. These 2 children had died within just months of each other.
Oh my God.
Charles recalled that the children had seemed healthy when he left for work that day, and they did cry at his leaving, like sad that he was leaving. He said they had died of convulsions not long after breakfast. Each time, he left healthy children, only to return to tragedy. The couple received insurance payouts for the deaths of their 2 children, but that didn't help ease the pain. It also made Charlie very suspicious of his wife. So suspicious that not long after, Charlie took Melvina, the couple's firstborn daughter, and left. Just up and left. Completely abandoning Nannie, their newborn Florine, and his own mother. But his mother died soon after. To make ends meet, Nannie took up a job in a cotton mill. Then, in the summer of 1928, Charlie returned with his daughter Melvina. He wasn't only accompanied by her, though. He returned with a new woman. A recent divorcee who also had her own child. Braggs and Nancy divorced soon after that, and Nannie took both of her daughters, Melvina and Florine, and went to live with her mother in Cedartown, Georgia. Years later, Braggs would claim that he left Nannie because he was frightened of her. He was interviewed and told reporters that when Nannie was mad, he wouldn't eat or drink anything that she had prepared for him. He claimed he smelled a rat. Just that next year, in 1929, Nannie was now a new single woman living in Georgia. She still loved reading true romance, those romantic magazines she enjoyed when she was younger. She continued to pore over the Lonely Hearts column and even wrote to some men who were advertised there.
Oh, my.
One man who caught her attention was Robert Franklin Harrelson. Harrelson was a 23-year-old factory worker from Jacksonville. They started corresponding via letter, and Robert wrote her a romantic poem. What?
I don't know. I just feel like, and I obviously didn't think of this shit at the time, but I'm like, every single time someone talks to you, your first reaction, okay, are you real?
Yeah.
And that is when you can easily send someone a legitimate picture of you.
Were cameras like a popular thing at this time? Yeah.
And they're just...
I know.
That's crazy.
So in return to this romantic poem she received, Nannie sent him a cake. The two met up and were quickly wed in 1929.
The fuck?
Like literally same year she moved down to Georgia, they get wed. So they moved to Jacksonville and the couple lived there with Nannie's two daughters. Another source said that Nannie and Robert actually hit the road together, leaving Florine, their youngest, alone in their old house.
Oh, jeez.
Neighbors got involved when they realized this, and they were able to track down Charles, her first husband, who came and took Florine with him.
Oh, okay.
That same source said that it took Nannie 9 years to finally reconnect with Florine after this, but all other sources I read said that she had both of her daughters when she was married to Robert. Both of her daughters were with her. But not long into their marriage, Nannie discovered that Robert was an alcoholic and had a criminal record for assault.
She knows how to pick him.
Oh, but
almost weird. You shouldn't just marry someone that you've only talked to through fucking letters
for such a short amount of time, because you don't truly know a person after that amount of time. Don't. But regardless, their marriage lasted for another 16 years. So during this time, obviously...
Sounds like she tolerated a lot.
So during this time, obviously, her daughters were growing up. Her eldest daughter, Melvina, eventually met a man and the two got married. I assume they moved in with each other and out of Nannie and Robert's house. In 1943, Melvina gave birth to a baby boy who she named Robert Lee Haynes, maybe after her stepfather. Then just 2 years later, she had another baby. But trigger warning, tragedy would follow when her new baby died soon after birth.
Oh, no.
Like very soon after. As in, Melvina was still groggy from labor.
Oh, my God.
And from the ether that she had been given for the pain of childbirth. In that groggy state, Melvina believed that she saw her mother stick a hat pin, which is a pin that's used to hold hats in place, into her baby's head.
What?
Distraught, she asked her husband and sister to clarify that Nannie had been the one to tell them the baby had died. They said yes, Nannie was the first one to tell them. She then asked if they noticed Nannie holding a pin. They thought back and they said, yeah, actually, she was holding a pin. However, the doctors were unable to give a positive explanation for how the baby had died. After the death of one of their children, Melvina and her husband drifted apart, and Melvina eventually started dating a soldier. Well, Nannie didn't approve of this soldier. This caused a pretty nasty fight one night, resulting in Melvina storming out and going to spend time at her father's house. Well, on July 7th, 1945, while her other son Robert was under Nannie's care, I guess when Melvina left, she left her son still at the house where Nannie was. Well, when she came back, she realized that Robert had died mysteriously.
Shut up.
At the time, the death was ruled as asphyxia from unknown causes. I guess...
This bitch is killing these kids.
I guess somehow Nannie had been able to take out a life insurance policy on baby Robert, so her grandson, and after his sudden death, she received $500.
Yo.
But nothing's being seen kind of at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, another trigger warning. In 1945, Japan surrendered to Allied powers to end World War II. Adult Robert celebrated rather intensely at this victory, heading to a nearby tavern to welcome home some friends who had been fighting overseas. When Robert returned home that night, he wanted one thing from Nannie, one thing that she turned down. So instead, that night, he raped her.
Robert.
Husband.
Oh my God. I'm sorry.
There was Robert baby, and there's adult Robert husband.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you for the clarification.
And if people don't know, husbands can still rape spouses.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
spouses can still rape a spouse.
Absolutely.
Just because you're married doesn't mean it's not rape. Okay.
Consent is still consent. It doesn't matter if you're married.
Thank you. I just wanted to throw that out there. So that very next day, Nannie was in the gardening, when she noticed Robert's jar of corn whiskey hidden deep in the flower bed. She took the jar to her storeroom, poured out some of the whiskey from the jar, and added in a special ingredient, rat poison. Robert died a very painful death that very evening at the age of 38.
I mean,
I know. That there's somewhere I'm like, So very soon after that.
If she had just stuck to like people like that.
Right.
And not fucking children.
Right.
Like that's, I'm like, dude.
The children can't be forgiven. A man who raped you.
And also, like, you got to be scary, heartless to now do this, like, more than once.
Just you wait, Mackenzie. So very soon after his death, Nannie collected a $500 life insurance policy that she had taken out on him and apparently used that money to buy 10 acres of land and build herself a nice little house on a new property.
Oh, Lord.
And no one looked into Robert's death. He was a drunk, so it wasn't hard to imagine that he maybe wouldn't live the longest of lives. So remember how I said that Nannie was always very interested in the Lonely Hearts column in the romance magazines? Well, that is how she met third husband, Arlie Lanning.
Oh, no.
While she was traveling to Lexington, North Carolina.
Don't do it.
It was 1947. Lanning was working as a laborer. He had originally been from Alabama. The two met up.
Have we been in Oklahoma yet?
We will get there.
Okay.
They claim her. That's why I chose this.
Just wanted to ask.
I know. When I was going through these notes, I was like, damn, when did we get to Oklahoma? So the two met up, and within 3 days, they were married. 3 days!
I bet you it ends happily ever after.
That's what, 72 hours? But just like her previous husband, Lanning was an alcoholic and a womanizer. And similar to her first marriage.
She has a type.
It seems so. Like similar to her first marriage, Nannie would be the one to disappear for months on end. Whenever things got bad at home, she would be the one to leave, and it was always a mystery as to where she would set off to. When Lanning drank too much or flirted too much, she would pack up and go, sometimes leaving a letter saying gone, other times leaving without a word. On occasion, Lanning would receive a cablegram that said, send money, while others may say, be home soon. And these cablegrams would come from all over the country.
What's a...
It's just like a, kind of like a telegram, I believe. But each time she returned home, she was the doting housewife. She loved her husband and did the wifely duties around the house. And he would reciprocate that, and they would seem to be the loving couple to everyone outside. But what about her random trips?
How old is she at this point? Because
Everything started when she was like 20s. She was married for about 16 years. So that would put her at like mid-30s. Mid-30s,
so
almost 40.
She's still young.
She's still young. She still has a lot of life to live.
Holy fuck.
Yes. So her trips away were always easily explained to neighbors. She was either traveling to a nearby neighborhood to take care of her 84-year-old mother who needed help around the house. Maybe she would say she was traveling to Gadsden, Alabama to take care of her sister Dovey, who had recently been diagnosed with cancer. She lived the typical housewife dream, or so it seemed. She had the pie on the windowsill cooling, the fresh laundry hanging in the breeze to dry, the romance novels always close by to read. And television at the time was a newer thing with all of its romantic TV shows, and Nannie just ate them up. She was an active churchgoer at the time as well, getting close to all of the church families. She would attend the after-church cookouts, the socials, you name it. She was even part of the ladies' auxiliary. And Lanning, when sober, would be right by her side. But his reputation wasn't what Nannie's was. Those who attended Lexington Methodist Church weren't the big fans of his, none knowing if Nannie was aware who he was before she showed up, and none of them willing to break her heart by telling her if she didn't know. But it wasn't very long before her husband ended up dying of what was said to be heart failure. He passed just after a nephew who had been living with the two died of food poisoning. Only time I ever heard that little fact too, and then it never came up again. Yeah.
There's a lot of people dying.
Around her, yeah. At the funeral, Nannie was surrounded and supported by all of her close neighbors. But the big turnout wasn't necessarily for Lanning, but rather for Nannie, his devoted and loving old widow. Loving now widow. His sudden death from heart failure wasn't too surprising and certainly wasn't questioned. He had been a heavy drinker, so his heart already wasn't great to start off with, and a very dangerous flu virus had been going around. He had all the flu symptoms anyways, sweating, vomiting, dizziness. At the funeral, through tears, she told her funeral goers, quote, "He just sat down one morning to drink a cup of coffee and eat a bowl of prunes I especially prepared for him. Up until then, why, let me tell you, he looked in fine shape. Then, well, 2 days later, dead. I nursed him, believe me, I nursed him, but I failed. Poor Arlie. You know what he said to me before he breathed his last? Nannie, he said. Nannie, it must have been the coffee."
That's
Nannie.
good in the coffee. Maybe he knew. Could you imagine how fucked that would be, knowing, like, once it hits you,
right,
that this person's poisoned you, but you're, like, at this point too far gone, and they're fucking taking care of you?
In his will, Lanning had ended up leaving his house to his sister, not Nannie.
Damn!
Damn! And
you did all that. You don't get shit.
And mysteriously, on April 21st, while it was still in Nannie's possession, the house burned down.
What a bitch!
Nannie thankfully wasn't in the house at the time. She was out driving around with her favorite household item, the TV set, in the backseat of her car.
What a fucking see you next Tuesday.
But don't think that's weird. She told people she was on the way to have it repaired. So that's why she had it in the car with her when the fire happened.
You couldn't have just chalked it up to a loss.
But the insurance money for the house somehow still went to Nannie instead.
Karma, you're not working.
I know. And I think she must have either been taking care of Lanning's mother or something, but after her mother-in-law died in her sleep, Nannie left North Carolina and went to live with her sister Dovey in Gadsden. Sadly, Dovey wasn't doing too well and hadn't been for some time.
Like, legitimately?
Yeah, like I told you, she had been diagnosed with cancer.
Okay.
She was and had been bedridden, but
Mm-hmm.
But suddenly, somehow tragedy would follow Nannie because shortly after her arrival at her sister's, Dovey passed away as well.
Goddamn.
That same year that Dovey died, Nannie's other sister also passed away after Nannie had visited. Both sisters had complained of stomach cramps and convulsions shortly before their deaths. Still looking for that happily ever after, Nannie joined the Diamond Circle Club, a dating service, which is how she met her next husband. We're at number 4, 69-year-old Richard L.
How many people
Morton.
is it at this point?
How many people has she married?
No, that are dead probably because of her.
So 2 husbands, 2 daughters, apparently a nephew, a mother-in-law, 2 sisters.
What about her grandson?
Oh yeah, a grandson. 2 grandsons.
Yeah, 2 grandsons.
So it sounds like we might be around 10.
Jesus.
So she meets number 4, 69-year-old Richard L. Morton, who was from Jamestown, North Carolina, but was now living in Emporia, Kansas. See, we're moving our way over.
Mm-hmm.
Richard was a recently retired businessman, half Native American. He was tall, dark, and handsome. Exactly what Nannie was looking for. And Richard was enamored with Nannie and even wrote to the Diamond Circle Club asking them to delete his and Nannie's name from the availability list and thanking them for introducing him to, quote, the sweetest and most wonderful woman I have ever met.
Oh, no.
They were quickly wed in Emporia, Kansas in October of 1952, and Nannie moved into Richard's little home in Emporia with him. Richard would buy Nannie all sorts of things, from clothing to jewelry to just little things he thought she would like. And Richard was different from her past husbands in that he didn't have a drinking problem.
Oh, good.
He was similar in the fact that he was adulterous.
Oh, no.
When he would buy Nannie something, he would have another purchase for another girl in town.
Oh.
When Richard would go into town for whatever he needed, he would be away for quite some time. One time, Nannie asked him why he had been gone for so long, and he gave a casual response that he was just taking his time. This prompted Nannie to investigate a little bit. She discovered that Richard had a someone on the side, a someone who he had known before he and Nannie had gotten married, and a someone who he had no intentions of dropping. At this point, Nannie had begun writing to a Lonely Hearts column again and was receiving many letters from potential lovers hoping to sweep her off her feet. This is around the time that Nannie's father died and her mother, Louisa, came to live with the couple.
Oh, no, Mom.
But then the unthinkable happened.
No!
Healthy Louisa passed away suddenly in January of 1953.
Ugh.
After just a few days, Louisa had started to feel ill with chronic stomach pain.
Ugh,
Mom. Then shortly after that, on May 19th, 1953, Richard also passed away.
I saw that coming from a mile away.
Also from chronic stomach pain. Nannie had taken out 5 life insurance policies on Morton, which totaled to $1,400 at the time, which in today's money would be a little over $15,000.
Damn.
Yeah. On to the next. We move on to Mr. 5, Samuel Doss. Sam Doss was your typical nothing special kind of guy. He had been married previously and had a whole family, but he had sadly lost them in a tornado back in Arkansas. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Didn't even put that together. He was a Nazarene minister, so Nazarene is a church movement and falls under the classification of Protestant.
Okay.
He never chased women, never smoked, never drank, refused to gamble or play dice, and never cussed.
So we like him.
Okay.
He seems nice.
He seems nice. But just you wait.
He's not nice?
Remember, he's a minister.
Oh, no. Okay, well.
He cared about his appearance, was frugal, was very even-tempered, and tried to see the good in things. But by all accounts, and the way Nannie put it, he was just boring. Samuel Doss and Nannie got married in June 1953 in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We've made it to Oklahoma!
At last!
The rest of the story is in Oklahoma. You're welcome.
Thank goodness. It ends on a high note.
We're in Oklahoma. So Samuel had been one of those men who Nannie had been writing to while still married to Morton. So after Morton's death, she came straight to Tulsa. And Samuel didn't remind Nannie of any of her former husbands. He was straight-laced, not an alcoholic, not a womanizer. He worked a steady job as a state highway inspector. He spoke softly. He helped around the house with the household.
He carried a big stick.
He helped around the house with the household chores, and he wasn't threatening or violent.
You think
So
anyone's gonna get that?
maybe. I feel like.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you were gonna get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So even through all of these things, he was still very conservative. Samuel not only didn't like the romance novels and stories that Nannie loved, he disapproved of them. He believed that they were wasteful and cheap and evil idleness.
She's right. He is boring.
Yeah. He believed TV was meant to enrich the mind, so comedies and love stories were taboo. He often said, quote, Christian women don't need a television or romance magazines to be happy. Bedtime was 9:30 p.m. sharp, which Nannie had to follow. And sex wasn't spontaneous. It was pre-planned. Ew. And I just want to go over a bit more of the conditions in their house under Sam's control. Electric fans could only be used once temperatures inside the house reached unbearable levels. Lights were only to be on in the room you were in. So if you're entering one room, you turn the lights off in the room you were in. You only have lights on in the room you're in. Dollies covered all upholstery to help preserve it.
My dad was a stickler for the lights on. If I went from my room down to the basement and I left my light on, left your light on.
I get it to a point, but also at the same time, I have the light on out there.
Well, first of all, now I have night lights.
Yeah, night lights are great.
And I'm like, okay, I definitely I'll keep the light off in the kitchen.
Yeah. I mean, we just waste electricity because Roy's afraid of the dark, so we keep his bedroom light on all the time.
That's true too.
Yeah. Even when I try to turn it off, he looks at me like, my light. Yeah. Even if it'll be light, like on the weekends, if he's still sleeping in here and I come down to the bathroom or something, I'll turn the light off in the room. It's light outside. And he looks up at me and he's like, well, now it's more like it's darker.
Bubba's.
He's so cute.
Yes.
So all of these rules, regulations became too much for Nannie. So at one point, she up and left to take a vacation to Alabama.
So now she chooses the sensible thing to do.
Yeah. But maybe this was her plan because it caused Sam to come running after her, sending letters asking for her forgiveness. He then allowed her to spend money more freely, something that, again, he had been very frugal, so that wasn't allowed at first. Now it's more allowed. This led her to complaining about his control over the finances, in which he added her to his account to give her equal liberty of it.
Oh, no.
And also to prove that he was really loving her, really wanted her in his life, he took out 2 life insurance policies on himself, making Nannie the beneficiary. It was a cool September evening, and the two had sat down to dinner. Samuel quickly ate up his meal so that he could get to the prune cake Nannie had made even quicker.
That doesn't even sound appealing.
No, it doesn't. But I guess in these times, prunes are all you want.
Like if you said to me, I made you a prune cake, and I said, not for me.
I know. I can't even picture it to look good.
I don't want a prune, let alone in my cake.
But when night rolled around, Sam started to complain of intense stomach pain. He was in bed for the next few days in absolute pain, losing 16 pounds over that time.
Damn.
His doctor, who had been looking over him, finally admitted him to the hospital. Sam stayed in the hospital for the next 23 days. He was diagnosed with intense digestive tract infection, but he was treated and was released on October 5th, 1954.
Uh-oh.
Upon his return home, Nannie made sure to prepare a lovely welcome home meal for Sam. Some roast beef, which was delicious, and some coffee.
It was the coffee.
Sam ate and drank it all and went to bed. But by midnight, Samuel, who had been on the mend, was dead. This sudden death alerted Samuel's doctor, Dr. Schwelben, who ordered an autopsy be performed. He had no clue how his patient, who had been treated for 23 days and who had been doing better, could have died.
You done got caught, bitch.
Well, that autopsy revealed something. It revealed what Dr. Schwelben had thought. Sam didn't die of natural causes. The autopsy revealed that Samuel had a large amount of arsenic in his system, enough to kill 20 men. Nannie had no excuses ready for when asked where the arsenic had come from, and she was immediately arrested. Her interrogation began on November 26, 1954, headed by Special Agent Ray Page. Her Jolly Widow nickname was solidified by the fact that she laughed through her interrogation.
Oh my God.
Stating that her conscience was clear. I married these men because I loved them. She was interrogated by groups of 2 officers at a time, each time wearing them out, giggling along the way, and never giving anything up, often claiming, quote, I have never poisoned anyone. Soon enough, newspapers and wire services were abuzz about the jolly old lady who was being accused of the mysterious deaths of 2 people caused by poisoning. These articles must have done the trick, though, because that next morning, the Oklahoma police's phone was blowing up with tips from locals.
Oh.
Tips came in about other men Nannie had been married to who also met an untimely death, sisters who died while in her care, the death of her 2 young daughters, even the death of her mother. But during the whole process of investigations and interrogations and whatnot, a man from Goldsboro, North Carolina came forward. This man was 60-year-old dairy farmer John H. Keel. John told investigators that the two had been exchanging letters for some time. He told them, quote, "I'm mighty proud I didn't meet her and she didn't come down here. From now on, I'm through with these women who make their matches by mail."
Yeah.
I know. The following interrogation went on 7 grueling hours where Nannie's previous story started to show holes and lies began to be revealed. Special Agent Ray Page said to Nannie, quote, "We've made phone calls, Nannie, and we've learned that Mr. Doss was your 4th husband to die of the same symptoms. We're putting 2 and 2 together, Nannie, and it looks like we might just come up with, well, 4. Arsenic. Nannie, we believe they all died of arsenic. It'll be easier if you admit what you've done ahead of time, before we have to find out ourselves." At this point, she knew she had been found out.
What?
Eventually, she confessed that she had, in fact, poisoned Samuel Doss. She went on to say that shortly into their marriage, he started to annoy her. What husband doesn't? Just kidding. She says she started to feel sorry for him when she should have been feeling sorry for herself instead. So a brief reminder, Samuel was our clean-cut minister who didn't like her romance novels and such. Nannie said that there had been a lot of little things that annoyed her about Sam, like he would make them go to bed at dark, like I said. Quote, "He wouldn't let me have a television set or radio or even a fan in the house." She said that Doss had said to her, quote, "I've been a Christian man all my life, and you're going to be a Christian woman. You don't need a radio and television." Well, this ended up bothering Nannie so much that the day he made that comment, she dumped an inch of rat poison into his coffee.
Damn.
Well, this was way too much because it caused Doss to be violently sick, which in turn actually saved his life because he threw up all the poison.
Right.
After that whole episode and him then spending time in the hospital, Nannie was nursing him back to health, and she claimed that at this point, he had been as mean as ever and she had had enough. That is the day that she poisoned his food, just enough to kill him, and he died that night. Nannie signed her confession, stating that it was true and that this is what happened. This confession was the first that led her and the interrogators down the long list of past husbands. She claims she met Richard Norton, husband number 4, at a bus stop in Burlington, Alabama. He was a native of Emporia, Kansas, like I said. After much questioning, she admitted that she had poisoned him in 1953 because, quote, "He had been making me mad, shining up to other women." When talking about Arlie Lanning, number 3, Nannie said that he crossed the line in 1952. She claimed he was a womanizer who was running around with other women. She concluded talking about him by saying that she poisoned him as well. Investigators kind of understood Nannie now and were able to steer the conversation to her second husband, Robert Frank Harrelson. During this confession, Nannie claimed that her and Robert had been wed in 1937, but later interviews with Robert's brother said that the two were married in 1945, the year that Robert had died. Nannie said that she had originally married him for love, but soon she learned his true colors, that he was a jailbird and a drunkard. She then told interrogators this story. One Sunday, she was spending time at her mother's house when Robert's brother showed up and told Nannie that Robert wanted to see her. Nannie hadn't seen him that day, as he had been out drinking the night before. So Nannie and the brother head to the edge of town together, where Nannie finds Robert passed out from having had too much to drink. She got him up, drove him home, and was helping him inside when he said he wanted to go to bed with her, to which she refused. To this refusal, Robert said, quote, "My God, woman, I may not be here next Sunday to go to bed with." She told interrogators that she thought about what he had said. Then she, quote, "Went and got the whiskey bottle out of the flour bin in the kitchen and poured poison into it. I thought I'll just teach him a lesson." The next morning, Nannie woke up and noticed that the bottle was empty and that Robert was sick. And he was sick all week, all the way up until his death. After each confession was signed, Nannie would proclaim, "Now my conscience is clear."
Oh.
Some sources say that while in custody, she confessed to not 1, not 2, but 8 different murders.
Jesus.
4 of her past 5 husbands, her mother, her sister, her grandson, and her mother-in-law. But we kind of found a lot more going through this. But other sources say that after talking about Robert, her lips were sealed and no other confessions came out. She even said, quote, "You can dig up all the graves in the world and you won't get anything more on me." Well, they did dig up all the graves of all those who surrounded Nannie who had mysteriously died, and all of the bodies were exhumed. All showed signs that their deaths had been caused by poisoning.
Oh, shit.
But she still never confessed further. Though there were a few that I read in one source who appeared to have died by asphyxia, leading to a strong suspicion that those individuals had been smothered in their sleep.
Pourquoi?
I don't know. Maybe if the poison didn't kill him quick enough.
Ew.
I don't know. She was, however, connected to the deaths of the 4 husbands, her mother, 2 sisters, 2 of her children, a grandchild, and a nephew. Criminologist Eric W. Hickey said, quote, "It's very likely there were others who also sampled Nannie's stewed prunes. Each of her victims died agonizing deaths after being fed large amounts of rat poison laced with arsenic."
Jeez.
But Oklahoma didn't focus on all of these murders. They focused solely on her most recent husband, Samuel Doss. His murder was the only one that occurred within their jurisdiction.
Ah.
Yep. Some psychological tests were done, and Nannie was found mentally fit to stand trial, and her trial was set for June 2nd, 1955, in the Criminal Court of Tulsa, Oklahoma. But due to her lawyers not knowing how to handle the case, Nannie Doss pled guilty to her husband Samuel Doss's murder on May 17th, 1955. She insisted that money and the insurance payouts never played a role in any of the murders.
Mm-hmm.
They had all been motivated by marital boredom.
Jesus.
And a dream of discovering the ideal husband. A belief she had held from her romance magazines. She told interrogators, "I was searching for the perfect mate, the real romance of life." After a very brief hearing, the judge presiding over the case, Judge Elmer Adams, sentenced Nannie to life imprisonment. At the time, Oklahoma did have the death penalty, usually electric chair, but due to her being a woman, she was not given the death penalty. She was never charged with any of the other murders that she confessed to. Doss died on June 2nd, 1965, at the age of only 59.
Jesus, she did this and
And what's so sad is they called her, like, Granny. Like, you know, she had, like, the Giggling Granny nickname, and she was only 59. So she died in the hospital ward of the Oklahoma State Penitentiary from leukemia. She is currently buried at Oak Hill Memorial Park. So are there any others? So we talked about known potential husband number 6, John Keel, the dairy farmer who almost died but didn't meet up with her. Shelby Green, one of Nannie's descendants, said that there had been a period during Nannie's life where she was unaccounted for. It is believed that she traveled by train to New York, went over to Idaho, and just kind of traveled all over the country. It is truly anyone's guess what she did while traveling. Green mentioned that there may have been a man named Hendricks. Was Hendricks one of Nannie's victims that we just don't know about? Were there other men who fell victim to her deadly prunes? I guess we'll never know more about the giggling granny, Nannie Doss.
That is crazy.
Yeah. Wild. 5 husbands. And it was
a lot of children.
A lot of children. But so it was saying, like, you know, when she was younger, she would kind of use her looks to get all these men because she was, like, you know, cute, curvy, whatever a man wanted. Well, as she got older, her curves kind of turned into rolls, you know, not so much. So then that's when she started to rely on the Lonely Hearts columns and her ability to, like, write nice letters and all these romance things and send them nice pies and cakes.
You know, look, I get it. I, too, was disappointed when I came to the realization that all of those books, none of that will ever happen.
Never.
Like, never, there will never be any man to exist that matches those books. And I'm getting to the point where I'm like, if he does, there's some sketch.
Right. How are you single for this long?
Right. Like, you're this good?
But yeah, so there's no way to know how many people she killed. It could be between 8 to like 20. It all happened over like a 2-decade time frame. So,
and she just did it like so laissez-faire.
So yeah, so willy-nilly. And like she, as I was reading, they were like saying like during all of her interrogations, she was just like giggling and like she had a romance novel that she was reading at one point. She was like kind of just like blowing off the investigators' questions until our agent, Ray Page, grabbed the book and was like, "You need to answer these questions." And she goes, "If I answer them, can I get my magazine back?" And so he was like,
"Oh my God, she's fucking nuts."
Yeah. Yes.
Fucking nuts.
And it's because she just wanted to keep finding the right husband. And when she didn't find him, she would move on to the next. Thank you. Next.
Ay.
So yeah, Nannie Doss.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
That was very good.
And I know we weren't all of Oklahoma, but I thought it was too good to not do.
Oh, you definitely had to do it.
Thank you.
100%.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Mackenzie, what do you have for us tonight?
Well, you know, this is why they say second is the worst. Definitely, you know, not as wild as yours.
Yeah,
not even.
This one took me so freaking long. Each time I thought I was done, I would find something new, and I'm like, damn.
Yeah, and mine is.
I'm sure it's gonna be incredible.
It's weird.
Oh,
it's
okay.
Weird.
We like weird.
It's pretty weird. It doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Okay.
So, go with me. So today I share with you the dark and spooky history of St. Vincent's, which can be described as having been a mental hospital, drug and alcohol rehabilitation center, and even a home for the elderly. There are no unsolved cases in this story.
Oh.
Kind of. Technically, There is an unsolved murder that is tied to this building.
No, of course there is.
But it's not the focus of my story, so it doesn't count.
Okay.
And each time I read a different article, there was always like a new fact.
Yes.
Like it was essentially the same, but then like one little thing.
Right.
There might be something added or something slightly changed. And I'm like,
the mystery is this place holds.
Well, but then I found like news articles.
Oh.
Which was really...
News articles.
It was very lucky because it was from the 80s and it was just archived and I didn't have to... God bless the Oklahoman because I didn't have to sign up for anything or pay and they let me read it.
Oh, I've talked about Mysterious Universe before. I just reached my limit of articles, which I didn't know was possible. I thought it was just like a blog, but it's not.
It's not.
And it was like, you've reached your limit. Please subscribe. And I was like, no. But then I was like, it's only $5 a month, so maybe.
I mean, do you at least use it 5 times a month?
Maybe. Well, we don't do 5 episodes a month, so no.
We don't?
No. Usually there's only 4 weeks a month. There's some months where we do 5.
So
but most of the time it's only 4.
4 is 1 less than 5.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But I found a way, if I pull up a different browser, then it kind of restarts.
Yeah, so most of this story that I'm sharing with you comes from what I deem to be the most legitimate of the sources.
Okay.
One of the girls, like whose article I use a lot in here, she like cited from an article from back then.
Oh.
So I'm like, you seem legitimate. She like on her website, she like talks about, there's like about her and she's like a writer. She's been published. So she seemed legitimate.
Yeah, it does seem legit.
So I closed out of all the other like bloggy, old, weird type ones. Of course, I kept up Reddit.
Of course, yeah. I use Reddit actually so much.
I have grown to fucking love it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is going to be dangerous because I could very easily see if I get some time on my hands.
Oh, rabbit holes are so easy down that place.
I have to like stop myself from like scrolling to the other conversations.
I can send you some of the Reddit conversations for why I'm so obsessed with Missing 411.
Yeah.
And you will become obsessed. It talks about the staircases in the middle of the woods. Like, ooh. Anyway, we digress.
So I do throw like a couple of like, I read this here and that there. So this story is a great example of a real life game of telephone because each time there was a different fact of something was slightly changed. And its history and why it's haunted don't really seem to have anything to do with each other.
Okay.
So I'm just going to tell you both.
All right. Sounds good.
So St. Vincent's got its start in 1945 by the Brothers of Mercy, who were a religious group that wanted to make St. Vincent's a home for mentally and physically ill boys and men in the Oklahoma City area. Wow, look at that. Both religion. Again, we're just connected like that.
Weird.
Not entirely sure what the group's specialty was. Some of the sources I read said that they were a group of like nurses, like brother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I'm not sure.
Because there are like a lot of like religious hospitals and things.
Yes. Like
so that would make sense.
And it seemed like they were like a group that's done this before.
Okay.
But I didn't look too much into them themselves. Yeah. So over the years, they had built addition to the facility as their numbers grew. In 1952, they built a 22-room facility in addition on the property.
Wow.
And then in 1956, they received a $50,000 grant from Hilburton, don't know who that is, which allowed them to add a second floor and admit 23 more patients.
Wow.
The home would host magic shows and had an annual carnival.
Fun.
All was well with St. Vincent's until 1962.
Until it wasn't.
Until it wasn't. Oh, what a night.
Oh, what a night.
Late September. No, December.
Late December.
Keep fucking that shit up. 63.
That's what I thought, but I didn't want to say it and be wrong.
What a very special time for me. What a lady, what a night.
Not our song.
I could like go in on that.
I know you could.
I love that song. Anyway, it was October and it was 1962. And 24-year-old Louis Andre Demers turned himself into police, confessing to killing 2 patients when he had worked at St. Vincent's the year before. Stuart Mitchell and William Ingram's deaths were thought to be from natural causes, so the police were not 100% convinced that this confession was true. Deemer's supposed motive was, quote, because I tried to kill once but couldn't do it. I wanted to find out how it felt.
Okay.
Yeah. He had moved to Boston about a month after the murders to go to school, but felt bad about what he had done and thought that he might be sick. And because there was no proof, most people obviously didn't believe his story. And so they decided to give him a polygraph test, which it came back that he was telling the truth. So they were like, okay, cool, we'll go with it, which was weird. He was then, I don't know if he was then, but he was evaluated by psychiatrists and they deemed him unfit to stand trial. And he was later diagnosed with schizophrenia and sent to a treatment center at a different hospital.
Okay.
But according to one source I read, he was released from the hospital and actually got his degree at Washburn University in Kansas. He ended up becoming a licensed mental health technician and worked at a clinic for many years. Some of the random facts, though, that people included in this story.
Oh, yes.
Before I found out who this person was. Because it wasn't until the last thing I read.
Naturally, yes.
Yeah. So some of them actually even said it was an accident.
What, his killing?
Yeah, like it wasn't until like this maybe second or third source that I read that said like specifically that it was done on purpose.
Huh.
One said that he had actually suffocated 2 people and also pushed another down the stairs.
Oh.
I didn't even, like I said, I didn't know who this guy was until the last article I read. But when I did try to look him up to see if I could find anything written from that time, there was no such luck. Granted, it was 1962. I was shocked I found the ones from 1988. So there was one case I did. I can't remember which one it was. But I found some website that like archives legitimate newspaper clippings.
Oh, cool.
And it like, the site, I don't remember what it's called, but it like will clear it up for you. Like it'll zoom in on the thing you want to read.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is great. I can't remember what I used it for, but. So in 1967, Father Richard Dolan was assigned by the Catholic Church to establish a program for recovering alcoholics. By 1968, he had renovated St. Vincent's and renamed it the Main Artery and was assigned... Nope. Damn.
Oh, what a night.
Late December back in 63. Ooh, keep that part in. That one was good.
You want people to hear that beautiful singing?
That part was really good. Don't take all the other shit out from before. They don't need to hear that one. Anyway. By 1968, he had renovated St. Vincent's and renamed it the Main Artery, and it was one of the few recovery programs at the time. Father Dolan's assignment ended, but he continued his work with alcoholics, even without support from the church. Side note, he apparently was a recovering alcoholic.
Oh.
So this was very important to him.
Yeah.
The Main Artery closed by the mid-70s, but Dolan continued the programs by funding them through donations and selling his artwork. Father Dolan also ran a handful of bingo balls.
Good one. Oh, what a night.
I can't read this now. Now bueno, now bueno. Okay. So Father Dolan also ran a handful of bingo halls during the mid-1970s. While his programs were supposedly respectable, the bingo operations tended to be a little controversial, according to officials.
Spicy bingo.
Yeah. 1974, he was arrested and charged with engaging in an act of lewdness after he solicited an undercover police officer.
Oh.
You think that's a no. Dolan had approached the undercover officer and invited him back to his apartment.
Ooh.
And then he was later arrested after he made a pass at the officer.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what's Dolan's profession?
A priest.
Right. That's what I thought. But I was like, no, that can't be.
I know. He seems like a really good guy. Seems got like a lot going on.
Yeah.
But I feel like he's trying.
Yeah.
He didn't, I mean, from what I read, it's not like he did anything like hinky.
Right.
Like he was an overall good guy.
Yeah.
You know, I just feel like while we support the lifestyle.
Right.
It's definitely interesting because his religion does not.
Right.
So
his religion very much does not.
Yeah. And like at the end of one of the articles I read, it was like he was still in good standing with the Catholic Church. Now he wasn't.
So I guess they pick and choose what they want to do.
Well, he wasn't like a priest, but he was still in good standing with them.
Oh, so he was no longer a priest after that.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I forget at what point he was. I'm assuming maybe after he got arrested.
Probably. That's probably what happened there.
Yeah. Anywho, he did briefly move to Pueblo, Colorado, where he'd served as an associate pastor at St. Francis Catholic Church, and it was the only assignment he had outside of Oklahoma since becoming ordained in 1950. He returned to Oklahoma City in 1987, and he lived a quiet life at Heritage East Apartments. On November 30th, 1988, the manager of the apartment complex was conducting a routine check of the complex. I realize how much I say words.
I know.
Anyway, she found 66-year-old Richard Dolan beaten to death in his apartment.
Oh.
Police suspected it was someone Dolan knew because there was no signs of a break-in. And a friend of the priest said that this was not the first time that Dolan had been attacked. The friend shared that Dolan had told him all about the times that he had been robbed or beaten.
Oh my gosh.
Dolan once shared that a man and a teenage boy had beat him with a baseball bat and tried to set him on fire.
Jeez.
He also said that he had been robbed at gunpoint after one of his bingo games and more than $1,000 had been stolen. So police did not believe that any of the prior attacks had anything to do with it, his murder. Many suspected, because of the work that he did with recovering alcoholics, it could have been someone that he was trying to help. Police suspected that Dolan may have had problems with someone that they just didn't know about. And to this day, his murder is still unsolved.
An unsolved murder.
So some of the interesting little tidbits that were added to this, sprinkled on for a little seasoning.
Of course.
One person said that he was murdered from a sketchy bingo hall operation. Like this bingo hall being sketchy.
Those casual, sketchy bingo halls.
Yes. Bingo balls.
Bingo balls.
One person said it was because he had tried to pick up like the whole undercover cop situation.
Yeah.
That was like that. I know it's not true because that was the least popular one. But most of them did say that it was someone he was trying to help, but did not explain about who this person may have been. So what happened to St. Vincent's after Father Dolan? Well, in the 1980s, they tried to make the former nursing home a haunted house attraction, but that venture did not turn out to be successful.
Oh.
In 2004, the property was bought by Millard Bowie, who works very hard to keep trespassers away. So St. Vincent's clearly has a dark and spooky history behind it, and while it is not really 100% clear what or who specifically haunts this place, what is clear is that most people who decide to investigate the abandoned building are met with an unexplained, creeped out feeling and or experience.
Oh, well, I would assume, an abandoned building, you're going to get like a creeped out feeling.
Yeah, this place is
Extra.
gross. I don't know why people keep going there. Some even say there could be a demonic spirit that haunts St. Vincent's.
Ooh.
Reddit user, Ginger Scooby, said, quote, saying this place is, quote, creepy is an understatement. It looks exactly how you would picture an abandoned insane asylum would look.
Right.
Colorful, sensical? Nonsensical, thank you. Colorful, nonsensical graffiti on the walls, questionable splatters and drips on the walls, crumbling infrastructure, the echoes of water droplets in the distance, wind blowing through the building, zero light. Parentheses, I had to use my phone and camera flash. And just an overall vibe that you don't want to have. I'm glad I went, but I was even happier to leave. I want to stress to anyone that is thinking about trying to go out there to please think twice. This place is ready to fall. The first floor isn't even accessible without a canoe as it's flooded completely. Oh, I started laughing so hard. I was like, that's good. And the pillars holding the second story up are corroded and falling apart. It is not going to last much longer, and any wrong shake, vibration, shift, or added weight could be the trigger.
Jeez.
On Abandoned Oklahoma, Freckle-Faced Girl commented on an article written about St. Vincent and said, quote, awesome shots. There were pictures.
Oh, okay.
In the article.
Shots.
Yeah. All the times I've been in, about 3 or 4, the basement was still completely flooded. And then the last time I went was the night the ghost hunters held a thing there, and I was so mad because they had cleaned up everything. I don't know what she was talking about. Other commenters were saying that they had heard about the place growing up in the area. Others said that they would get strange feelings just from driving past. One user, Daria, said, quote, they tried to demolish it, but after several unexplained interferences, they gave up and left the brick part. It took months just to tear down the wooden addition to the building. I drove by every day for most of my life, and it always gave off the feeling that bad things happened there. When I saw the bulldozers a year or two ago, I knew they wouldn't succeed in destroying it. I told my husband, watch, something will happen. Delay after delay, I honestly think the workers just said, screw it, we're out of here. But by far, the winner of the comment of the night is by a user, Rick Peters.
Oh, normal sounding name.
I love this quote. It's fantastic. He said, or she, they, had a weird experience here a few years ago. My third wife and I were exploring here. We're exploring here, and my hand was on the handrail, and it broke. I think it was the demon at work. I mean, my phone had no service either. Never going back there again.
10 out of 10 would not recommend.
I love that.
I like how you had to specify my third wife.
My third wife and I were exploring here. Handrail broke, and the demon was at work. So many paranormal investigators explored the creepy halls of St. Vincent. In 2014, on Ghost Asylum, the Tennessee Wraith? What's that? Is that a thing?
I think.
A real thing?
I think so.
Doesn't sound like a real thing.
A ghost or ghost-like image of someone, especially one seen shortly before or after their death.
Then that would make sense since they are looking at ghosts.
Because they are looking at ghosts.
They are doing that for the job. Okay, anyway. In 2014, on Ghost Asylum, the Tennessee Wraith Chasers investigated the hospital to see if they could make contact with the dark spirits that were rumored to be present. Unfortunately, in order to watch the episode, I had to pay for it.
Naturally.
And I was not going to do that.
No.
But I did find a very short clip of their reactions after they were
a free clip.
Yeah, a free minute and a half of their reaction.
Yeah.
The basic gist of what I got is that they didn't discover anything substantial. One guy was very disappointed, very just truly distraught of
so sad.
The lack of
evidence
stuff. Yes, I don't know. It was quite dramatic. Oh, but they were both super creeped out by the place.
Okay.
One guy said that a couple of creepy things did happen, but I don't know what they are.
We would have to pay to find out.
We would have to pay to find out. On another video that was very anticlimactic, but the comments were interesting. User Jeff Reyes said, oh man, my wife and I explored that place. On the top level, we got hit with a blast of ice cold air, followed by footsteps coming at us down the hallway and a deep growl right in our ears. Yep, we got the hell out of there. Another user, Luckalos, commented on Jeff's comment and said, wow, so me and a girl also did the same thing and had the exact same thing happen. As you're coming down the hallway on the second floor to the stairs that go to the first floor, that's where it happened. Never forget it. Been around 3 years since then. But wow, never would go into that place again at 2 a.m. Ha ha.
Ha ha.
Ha ha. I caution those who have the desire to investigate spooky places. Millard Bowie is not very pleased about all the ghost hunters exploring his property. Mr. Bowie told Mr. Bowie told News 9 in 2016 he has had to board up the building.
Who said something? What?
He has restored my faith in humanity. Wow. We have the best people.
Yes, we do.
We just absolutely love all 150 of you. You're so special. So far, the people that have messaged us are always very nice.
Yeah.
And very kind.
We have very great, listeners.
And it's just, it warms my heart. Mostly because, I'm not expecting it. And it's always so sweet. And just, I'm like, you don't have to do that.
Right.
You know? You are going out of your way to show us kindness. And that is just, I think, truly one of the most wonderful things a human being can do.
And I don't know if she wants her name said, but you know who you are. Thank you so, so, so much for supporting us.
Yes.
It means more than I think you know.
Seriously. Anyway, sorry. I got excited. Anyway, Mr. Bowie. Not to be confused with David.
Oh, Kenzie.
He told 9 News in 2016 that he has had to board up the building 10 or 12 times because of people trying to break into the place and has had over $3,000 in fines from the city.
Why?
Because I guess of the damage? I don't know.
Wow.
Mr. Bowie said that he had dreams of renovating it and opening up a rehab center for women.
Oh.
Yeah. Many of the comments left on the articles and videos said that police are usually called and have given tickets for trespassing.
Mm-hmm.
It is highly discouraged to not break it onto the property.
It is highly discouraged to not.
Sorry. It is highly discouraged to break on to the property. My bad. And the place is really nasty. And that cannot smell pleasant.
No. Sitting water.
Yeah.
Ugh.
No. So, and there was like, in the last video I watched, there was like a couple mattresses.
Ew.
That didn't,
Ew.
like I said, cannot smell pleasant. Just be satisfied with the story that I leave you with and save yourself the hassle.
Yeah.
So that is St. Vincent's.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
When I think of bad smells, I think of when an animal died in my car, under my car or something, and it just smelled like death. My car smells fine now, but that's all I can think of. And like this place with like, you know, still water, like the smell of still standing water.
Okay, I was talking to your work people when I was at the bridal shower.
Oh, yeah. For a second, I was like, what?
They were talking about like where their like apartment in DC and apparently got mice problems.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how does that not smell?
Like, I mean, if it's not necessarily always in your apartment, it wouldn't.
Yeah, but I mean, are like they just really on top of collecting?
I don't know. I don't know how bad mice smell. So I don't know how much it would take.
It's a dead animal.
Oh, like dead mice.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant like little poop.
No.
Ew.
Because like
gross.
There'd be mice and then they'd set traps for the mice.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, gross. Well, I guess it takes a little bit of time for something to start smelling.
Mm.
So I guess if they get it out of there quick enough.
True.
Yeah.
I had a mouse. 2 mice.
We know. We've had mouse issues at my parents' house too.
The first mouse situation, my cousin was at my apartment because she was supposed to be watching my dog. But then he died.
Mackenzie.
She called me and she was like, I think there's a mouse in your kitchen. And I'm like, you think or you know? She's like, no, there's a mouse. And I was like, oh my God. So, and at the end of it, I was like, and you thought you didn't have to take care of a pet this weekend.
Joke's on you.
Joke's on you. There was still one there. Also dead.
Oh my God.
That was so funny. That was good. That was really funny. That was funny.
I'm glad you can make yourself laugh.
All the time. I find myself very amusing.
I know.
Yeah.
I know you do.
Which is why it's always so disappointing when I'm like, oh God, this is so funny. It's going to go viral. And it's like,
I find it funny.
And I'm like, this is funny.
Do you not see this? This is funny.
I'm also easily amused, so it's not hard.
No.
So, yeah.
Well, good story.
Thank you.
Wild, Oklahoma.
Oh, that was good.
Well, thank you everyone for listening. Rate and review us. Send us your stories.
Tell us you like us.
Yeah, we love that. But yeah, really, send us in your stories. We're going to keep bothering you until you do it. So do it.
Even if it's a short story.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't have to be a long story.
And it doesn't have to be anything wild.
Yeah. We just want to know.
Yeah.
All the things.
We'd love to hear it. And even if you don't want us to read it, just still send us a story and say, don't read this on the podcast, but we want to read it.
Yeah. Just to share with us.
Yeah.
We like hearing those things.
We love hearing those things.
Obviously.
That's why we do this podcast. All right. Well, thank you so much. So stay scary.
I was like, are you going to say
Well,
it?
I got that cough stuck in my throat and I was like, if I talk right now, like, I will die.
Oh, but like you also went for your computer. I was like, she's just going to end it? Is she not remember?
Well, because I was like going to move it to the stop to get ready and then it got stuck in my throat and I was like, oh
my God. It scared me for a second there.
Stay scary.
Stay safe.